Nigerians SIM and name, with their banks. Of course, the social media has been awash with a lot of complaints by Nigerians that they are saying NIN, that's National Identification Number, has been unauthorized, has been accessed without their consent by the telecom industries by linking their line with that national identification, which has resulted in so many people complaining that their bank app, has been tampered with, their privacy rights has been violated. So many people have even been exposed, to fraud. It has gotten to an extent that the federal government had even initiated investigation into this even occurred in the first place, where people's sensitive information, such as their national identification number, were assessed, by telecom industries. So we'll look at all of this. We'll look at how this issues violate individual privacy rights, and also look at the way on the issue. And secondly, the trial of the leader of the School of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, begins on Monday. He had earlier requested, that the judge handling the case be recused because of lack of confidence and bias. In fact, the judge already recused herself from that trial, but obviously the file was returned back to her, and she was mandated to continue. The trial is set to resume on Monday, that's the 10th of February. But then the concerns of Nnamdi Kanu is that the judge is biased and doesn't have confidence. So we'll look at all of this, look at the right of a defendant to ask for a judge to be recused. I will look at if indeed he even has the right to determine which judge hears his case or presides over his case. So these are the two issues we'll be looking at today's episode on democracy and the rule of law. With me on the show today is of course our ever-present guest, but when we return we'll introduce the guest to you, so stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, onto your favorite program, Democracy and the Rule of Law. With me on the show this evening is Barrister Obiora Ume, respected legal practitioner practicing here in Lagos with several decades, of legal experience. In his Barrister Obiora Ume, we welcome you to the show this evening.
Thank you very much, and esteemed viewers.
All right. Without much ado, we'll delve into the nitty-gritty of today's episode. Of course, our first topic would be, the federal government has ordered, the probe of the unauthorized NIN SIM leakage. So some telecom industry have that some of this telecommunication, MTN, Glo, all of that, has been accused of linking subscribers' SIM card, with their name, without their consent, and of course that's some subscribers have complained that it's a grave violation of their fundamental right, because national identification number is supposed to be a private, property of the individual subscriber, and they are complaining, say they're exposed to fraud and identity theft and so many other kind of issues surrounding. So what do you have to say concerning that aspect? And mind you, also have a data protection law which came into force recently, which should ordinarily protect people's data. So what do you say about all of this?
Yes, the order given by the president Bola Tinubu, some few days ago, that an interministerial committee investigates allegation of unauthorized SIM and linkage. Of course, that committee, headed by Nuhu Ribadu, is already running with mandate. And it is clear that, one, in line with what the president has said, it is wrong, it is illegal, it's unconstitutional for the telecom operators to go ahead and start linking people's recent times. So discover that some people even allege that people like and complain that when they try to dial one particular number, they will see their numbers, their SIM cards, with about 4 different NIN numbers. And NIN. Of course, one person has only one NIN. So when you now find out that you have 4 other NIN numbers attached to your SIM card, because of a problem. And it is high time Nigeria and Nigerians get it right. Nigerians have been surveyed since about, do your proper documentation as regards your NIN as well as SIM card. And the threats of disconnecting people whose whose SIM is linked with their NIN and all those things, Nigerians have been subject to so much stress over the years. The question is, when will we get it right? First, the issue of national identification number is something that applies to an individual, is the number by which an individual is identified. In other jurisdictions, especially in America, in Canada, in the UK, and so on, with your NIN, you do virtually everything. You can make your purchases, whatever things you want to do, and with it you are at the press of a button, everything concerning you appears. But here in Nigeria, we've had one national identity card before. Later, another one, I understand, another one is still in the offing for Nigerians to do. Why is identification an issue? And why is and the telecom operators, why are some of them trying to link? Even if you look at the telecoms industry, there are people who do crimes, kidnapping, extortion, all sorts of crimes. And these people, when they get heard that any of these perpetrators was arrested because of the use of SIM to identify such a person. There are people that register their SIM with strange names. So it is high time that the telecom operators get it right. Of course, they do not have the right to start this linkage. And of course, the committee the president has set up will finish the assignment and submit and find out if actually some of them have gone ahead without authorization to do linkage of NIN and SIM.
Okay, how important is this national? Because I understand that in other jurisdictions, for instance, in the United States of America, what we call the NIN is what they refer to as the Social Security number.
Yes.
That's the SSN.
That's the same thing here.
Yes. That's the Social Security number.
Yeah.
And every citizen must have. In fact, it's almost as if it is your life. It's like your DNA. Is it like your DNA, your credit score, everything, your number.
Yes.
That is what you use to access grant, but virtually is what you use virtually. So that's particular number is very important.
Yes.
So how come the telecom numbers, the mobile operators, how do they even it carries their data? People are traced before you do anything. You're expected to submit your national identification number. Before you even own a line, you're supposed to have a national identification number. So it's virtually your. So how are the telecom operators? How do they even gain access, to this national without the subscriber himself providing it to them? Are they supposed to have access, a back-end access to the national identification number?
Well, I wouldn't be able to tell you precisely how they got the NIN numbers, but what I can tell you precisely is that the NIN numbers are numbers that are peculiar to individuals in Nigeria. And they are numbers that are confidential, highly confidential, because they tell everything about the person's name, the sex, the blood group, the genotype, everything with the person's identity. Even in
his address.
Of emergency, or anything emergency that could be used. What kind of group who the victim has that will be used as the person's identity domain.
So it means that somebody else can use the person's name to register a SIM card. That's what it means. I can use your name to register a SIM card. So the information on that card, Kenneth Wimo is using a SIM card using your identity to register. So if I come,
they will trace whoever you may have used it, and that is why it is wrong. That's why it is very wrong. And especially these days when there's a lot of identity theft in the country, and already the government is trying to do everything possible to ensure that there's protection, which made the Data Protection Act to have seen a lot of day. But operators must comply with the law. The fact that you have information give public.
Yeah, but people would want, because in most of you, because of course they say data these days is live. Data is essentially, of course, that is what governs the interaction in this modern days where we have technology. Everything is embedded in technology. So people want to ask, the issue of data protection has become front burner, of the discussion recently. How are people's data protected? Because you go to bank, they ask you to fill this and submit some of these details. You go to some other government establishment, you are expected to submit these details. At the end of the day, how are these institutions able to protect the data of their customers, so that, of course, fraudsters will not have authorized access? Because we are having people waking up and their bank account is wiped. Yes, their life savings is wiped out. We'll see all of this. We are inundated with this thing, and this is as a result of data breach, because somebody somewhere could have authorized their sensitive information and have used it to access, their finances. So that brings the question: is that showing that perpetrators or people who have access, that's controllers, that's people who, by nature of the business they do, they have access to people's data. So what mechanism are put in place to ensure that there are stiff penalties? These data handlers handle this data properly.
Already in place, and that provides that the data of will be properly protected. But then, with the law in place, what are the persons concerned, the agencies concerned, doing about ensuring compliance with the law? Because that has some challenges somewhere there. And this issue of unauthorized linkage, a member of the House of Representatives complained himself that he dialed a particular number, and he noticed that 4 different NIN numbers were attached to his SIM. How do you explain that? And then, of course, there are some people that have more than 2 SIM cards. Some have 3, some have 4. So that in cases where there's a network failure in one network provider's service, you can use the alternative number. Then which do you now link? And the most important of everything is the fact that some of the operators decided to do the linkage without the consent, because that's the main thing that triggered the setting up of the committee by the president to look into it. How can they just go on their own to start linking these things? And that reminds us also that presently the registration for examination into the university system is ongoing presently, and one of the requirements is that there must be NIN provided by the candidates before they can register for what is wrongly called JAMB. It's not actually JAMB. JAMB is the body that conducts examination. Now, in the course of doing the registration, the students are expected to provide their NIN. Now, is this NIN being provided by the students safe?
Exactly.
Can they be manipulated? Can they be used by criminal-minded elements to perpetrate one crime or the other? What is that? Where people, use other people's number to make calls, and that the person whose number was used to make call landed in prison custody. There was an instance where somebody's number was used to make a call. But can I use your number? I don't have call credit in my phone. The person innocently allowed the person to use his phone number, not knowing that the person who made the call was one of the kidnappers of a victim. And the call was that the amount of money was to be transferred into an account, now paid into the card dealer's account number. And thereafter, the people now said that they have changed their minds about buying the vehicle, that the man should take out of the money they've paid and release the to them. And the man, they were trying to convince them to buy. They say no, they had a emergency, blah blah. Eventually, return the money to a different account provided by those people and retain whatever they asked him to retain. Eventually, the person was police came into the matter, investigated, and found out that that money was paid into a particular account, and that the call was made with a particular number, and the same number of the man into whose account the money was paid was apprehended. It was telling police news about any kidnap. They never believed. So, identity individuals is fundamental, because people can steal other people's identity, can do all sorts of things, and put innocent people into problems that they cannot easily explain how it occurred. And that's why what the president has done is commendable, to investigate through the committee he has set up, who authorized, found are culpable, and those culpable should be dealt with according to law. Should there be anything that has to do with the data, the information, the personal information of individual, it must be properly done. And like I said earlier, it is for this nation that we have a data that is clear, a data that is easily verifiable, and a data that at any point in time, nobody can use your number, no matter how the person tries, your NIN. Nobody can use mine except myself. And nobody can, for any reason, try to commit crime using another person's national identification number. And that's why, and that calls to question the essence of using NIN in some transactions, in some dealings, in even registration for UTME exams. All right. Is it important? Is it necessary? Is it indispensable?
All right.
Can't it be dispensed with?
We'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll look at, because it seems that some of these data handlers, that's the companies, the banks, and all of this, they do not understand the ramification of exposing their customers to third parties. And of course, we'll look at some of the heavy fines that have been paid, by some of these big companies that have violated individual data in the past, to serve as a warning to some of the data handlers, to be able to employ, specialists and technology in protecting people's information from being, accessed or even misusing those information You see that these days, you think about buying television, you open your phone, you see that television adverts will start popping up in your listing. You know, you tap. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are on the program Democracy and the Rule of Law. We are discussing the issue of data, the investigation of that, on the issue of name SIM linkage, right? Name linkage, which of course is a violation of the data protection law currently in force in Nigeria, and also a breach of citizens of fundamental right to privacy. Of this, we can see here that one of the largest, Meta, that's they were ordered to pay 725 million individuals that through their platforms. Yeah. So because even in Nigeria here, we've had was also fined, 223 million, for unauthorized access. So when we even come to our Fidelity was fined as recently as 2024, 555.8 million in August 2024 by the Data Protection Commission, for breaching customers' data privacy. The bank was found to have processed personal data without informed consent and relied on third parties. So we can say that the issue of data protection is a very, very serious one. Yes. And we have seen the regulation hit hard on these data violators in the past. So it's high time that data handlers, if some of this information can be left, like the JAMB you reference, if it's indispensable, why bringing it up? Why would the student put their before they, at the end of the day, JAMB or those information might be susceptible to third-party assets. At the end of the day, you have your data in the bank, your NIN in the bank, you find several places, which can third-party access. And these days, we do almost our lives is lived online, like before, where you keep your cash.
Yes, you see, the Constitution has given every Nigerian the right to privacy and covers your personal information and your personal information, and any violation or evasion of your privacy is actionable. Those are can go to court. Of course, those that have had against the Facebook, WhatsApp, the Fidelity, but for unauthorized use of individuals' information, and the monies they were made to pay, shows that it is a very serious matter. It's not something because you are exposed to the person's concern risk. Now, the president understood the magnitude and the complexity of what may if individuals have access to data of others. And that is why the committee has gone ahead to start a discreet investigation into the unauthorized SIM NIN linkage. And I'm sure, even though the president did not give them a time frame with him to conclude, we will know that Ribadu and his team will get that done and come up with a report. And of course, the recommendations, I believe, will be properly implemented. And that will serve as a deterrent to others. Because the risk that they are exposing people to is incalculable. So it is a very serious matter. And the purpose for which is to be given. And, if the person agrees to it, then having where the incidences, the implications, the consequences, and whatever, it is in consent.
Yeah, because I just want to chip in because I've been in an environment where people pay a lot of companies. They pay a lot of money to purchase individuals' information. In fact, to know how much some of these companies around, especially the real estate sector, some of them, in order to target their adverts on those who want to buy their properties, who they want to send newsletters to, they pay some banks, some financial institution to be able to assess the worth of individuals, so that when they send out their flyers, they will target those individuals who are in a certain financial category
and possibly get their phone
obviously, and their email, and send them straight. You'll be wondering how did they get my information?
That is, you see, part of it. That's part of it. Now, if the companies pay so much to banks and other institutions to private information of individuals, it is illegal.
Even kidnappers use it. They use it to know the people to target for their nefarious activities. They can the ransom they will demand. The issue of data is very important. It exposes people to serious harm.
And that is the more reason why it must be taken seriously in this nation. And the Nigerians, the effect of illegal or misuse of their information by unauthorized persons.
You could imagine that this notorious kidnapper, was on rampage, that is on trial now. They use it to target the victim. So you imagine that you are kidnapped and they tell you that we need 1 billion, and you say money. They show you your account. Look at, we know that you have an account. We have only requested 1 billion. You
and
keep
the
1
question
billion.
is, how did they get to know that the victim had 2 billion? They got that information from the banking institutions or from whatever source they used to get it, and that is clear violation. So people don't feel safe anymore if anybody can tell you things about yourself. So it has to be taken seriously. Seriously. And like I said earlier, the issue of NIN should be limited to things that are indispensable. If a student wants to do examination, is it compulsory, is it necessary for the person to divulge, to give out the NIN, which has everything about the person? These are questions that need to be answered. As I'm concerned, you're taking an examination and your result will be released to you with your name in the examination, your exam number,
Come back. This is John to your favorite program, Democracy and the Rule of Law. Okay, so the trial of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people, has been on for years now, and it's set to resume on Monday. He had requested that the Kanu should recuse herself in the gender now from the trial of the case, but the file was returned back to the, and Mazi Nnamdi said he's not comfortable with the justice continuing with the trial, that if there are no competencies on the Federal High Court, that his case will move to the east, for a trial. So what is the right of an accused person to make such a demand, or to make demands for to demand to demand to have a say in who tries his case?
Yes, in our criminal jurisprudence, it is part of the right of a defendant who is undergoing trial to demand in cases of apparent bias that a particular judge be made to himself from proceeding further with that matter. And the essence of that is because the defendant has the right to fair trial. He has right to fair hearing, in which case the person is given opportunity of presenting his case, and then the issue of fair trial, ensuring that the processes, the trial process procedures are in tandem with, what the law expects, the minimum standard. Now, they can applied that the judge, Justice Nyako, recused himself from proceeding with his trial, and the judge accepted. And the judge now sent the case to the chief judge of the Federal High Court to reassign the case to another judge. But then we understood that most of the other judges decided to play the pilot, to wash their hands, and decided not to have anything to do with that trial. And then when the other judges refused, then the chief judge has information, the chief judge now had to send it back. Nyako said, now give a notice that they will continue on Monday, 10th February, which is tomorrow. Now, the questions that arise from this is, number one, why trial in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory? The law is clear that where an offense is allegedly committed in a particular territory, it is the court within the territory that has jurisdiction. And that's what territorial jurisdiction. And where an offense is allegedly committed in Lagos, for example, you don't carry the person to Abuja because that's the capital of the country. No. You the person within the territory where the offense was committed. Now, in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, I am not aware of any incident happened within the territorial jurisdiction of Abuja to confer jurisdiction on the judges of the court in Abuja. Of course, we know that only in terms of the Federal High Court, the those are for administrative purposes, that have federal laws. Where did it take place? It took place, allegedly took place, in the East. So we are not saying, I'm not saying that it will be taken to state high court. No, that's not the issue. It is a federal high court, the court, federal government, where the alleged offense took place. That's the number one issue. The second issue is the issue of Justice Nyako coming to having recused himself previously and had written to the chief judge returning the case for reassignment to another judge. Why would the same judge come back to order, hearing notice to be served and the matter to continue?
Yeah, but you said
somebody has said, the defense said, I do not want this judge to continue my case because I don't think I'll get justice in this court. Currently, nobody knows.
So the defendant has the right to do that.
But he has said he does not want the judge to go with this matter, that the judge appears biased and he will not get justice in his court. And the judge agreed and said, well, I will not continue with your matter. He signed off and said the case went to the chief judge. Why must he be the one to continue with the matter?
How the chief judge have reassigned to him?
The chief judge reassigned to the same person who has officially constituted official. He has washed his hands off the matter based on application of the defendant. I don't want this judge to terminate for fair trial and fair hearing. He said, no, give me a judge to handle my matter so that I can fair hearing and fair trial. So based on that application, the judge said, well, force myself your matter, I recuse myself. He signed off. The chief judge tried to get other judges and from the the information that filtered out that the other judges were, kind of refusing to take the matter, is going back to the court. But I don't know whether that information is true. The other judges are not ready to take on the matter, because if a chief judge assigns a judge,
your duty bound,
they say, no, I don't want that matter. That's another issue that we also need to probe into. Can the other judges say we don't want to get this matter on our table, on our docket? Because once, as a judge, you have been appointed, you've taken your oath, you have to treat any matter that comes, without fear of favor. So if a judge or the other judges have actually declared the matter, then that is a game taken. Then over and above that, we are also aware that this trial has taken a long time. And Nnamdi Kanu has been incarcerated for a long time. And I'm aware also that some persons, including the members of the House of Representatives, at one time or the other approached the president, for my organization, and that I that there's peace. I believe that something needs to be done, particularly in a country where there should be equal and fair treatment to all. Let it not look as if there are biases somewhere, not being given out the same measure of treatment. You see, it is not also that in the past, some courts granted bail to Nnamdi Kanu. The bail was never to see the light of day. And then the question is, when he was granted bail, the bail, and at the end of the day, it didn't come out. Now, I believe that the essence of bail is to give the person an opportunity to be coming from his place and defend himself or herself. And of course, we know that where a defendant is in custody, the issue of having pre-trial discussions or conferences with the lawyers is always not smooth, because it's the lawyers have already taken steps. And what are those steps they're taking? They've approved since Justice Nyako has recused himself and be assigned to any of the federal court judges in the southeast, so that he can have fair trial and fair hearing. And that's an option. Yes, he can, by tomorrow, we wouldn't know what is going to happen. He's only God who knows what is going to happen tomorrow. But he can still maintain that he wouldn't want to proceed with trial because he believes that the court is biased. And of course, you see, the litmus test for fairness is that the innocent observer, an independent observer, proceedings court will believing that the judge has been fair. Bias is where a person witnessed the proceedings thinking that a judge was biased. And there are ways of imputing biases if comments that tend to prejudice the defendant or do certain things. So in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, since he said he does not want this judge to hear his case, will he be forced? Will he be forced without his consent to undergo trial in the court of a particular judge if he alleged was biased? In as much as I don't agree with him or don't know